Hey, this is C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my predictions for UFC 177, Dillashaw versus Baral 2, which happens on August 30th. Overall, for a pay-per-view card, I don't think it's very good. If this were an FS1 card, this is pretty much an FS1 card with a bantamweight title main event, and quite honestly, a title fight that not many people are asking for. I would have much rather seen Dillashaw versus, like, even a Sunshell would be better. At least there's a backstory there. Or Mizugaki would work. But, you know, Dillashaw delivered a 5-round domination to Baral and even finished him back in May. So I can't say I'm too interested in that main event. The fights underneath it, I mean, you have some decent prospects. Bethe, Pitbull, Correia, Tony Ferguson, Ramsey, Nijem. I mean, they're all prospects, but, you know, they're not known to be like these blue chip guys, except for Cejudo, who's on the prelims. I'm probably more interested in Brunson, Larkin, and Cejudo versus Jorgenson than some of the main card fights, to be honest with you. Actually, Burak versus Soto ain't too bad now that I think about it. I hate to be so down on this card, but I don't like the idea that take out Dillashaw versus Baral, and you can probably put this card on FS1, and it wouldn't even be one of the best FS1 cards out there. I mean, heck, you have like Jacare Mousasi, and the second fight underneath that is like Overeem Rothwell, you know, I mean, or that, you know, that Cowboy Cerrone versus Jim Miller card, that was really good, you know, for like an FS1. So yeah, but you know, let's get right to it. TJ Dillashaw defeated TJ Dillashaw fights Renan Baral. TJ Dillashaw defeated Renan Baral back in May 2014. He is the UFC bantamweight champion, and Dillashaw has a 10-2 record, 4 wins by KO TKO, 3 wins by sub. He's 28 years old on a 2-fight win streak, training out of Team Alpha Male. More importantly, though, he trains under Bang Ludwig and credits a lot of his improvement because of Bang. With Dillashaw, he's a very strong wrestler, strong cardio. His ground and pound's really good. His scrambling ability is good. He uses really good movement. He's fleet-footed. He's constantly moving in and out. And it's kind of an in-and-out stand-up. You started to really see that in the Mike Easton fight. He's just in and out. He also uses combinations with his kickboxing. Renan Baral, 32-2 record with 1 no contest, 8 wins by KO TKO, 14 wins by sub. He's 27 years old, training out of Nova União. He is the former UFC bantamweight champion. Has some strong Muay Thai. He uses range really well, especially with his punches. His knees are good. Some good leg kicks. He's a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. His takedown defense is really strong. His offensive takedowns are pretty good. There are some things that work against Baral that really favor Dillashaw. One, Baral is really flat-footed. He has a more traditional Muay Thai style, but he punches a lot more. Unless he likes prefers punching a lot more, but he's proficient at like kicks and knees and whatnot. Also, you know, I want to use the word like chinny or suspect chin with Baral, not in the sense that he gets dropped like every hit, but in the sense that he doesn't really react too well when he gets hit clean. It's not like people are knocking him out left and right or knocking him down left and right. So maybe that's not the best word, but it's just his reaction to getting hit. You know, he definitely doesn't react well to getting hit. If we see a repeat performance from TJ Dillashaw, I think he wins this one. The difference makers for this fight could be if Baral utilized a little more leg kicks, and maybe even tried for his own offensive takedowns and tried to take Dillashaw's back. That could be a difference maker. You know, if you're going with fleet-footed versus flat-footed, I mean, TJ Dillashaw should be, you know, pretty much ran circles around Baral. I know that in a lot of interviews they're talking about how Baral and his camp were saying, oh yeah, if he didn't get hit with the big shot in the first, things would be different. Possibly, but the fact of the matter is, he got hit with the big shot in the first. The last time they fought. And, you know, the fight, I can see the fight being different, though. It is an interesting fight. I can possibly see Baral having a little more success in this fight, but it's really hard to say. You know, because, like I said, the style of TJ Dillashaw works really well against him and Baral. Especially with that in and out style with lots of movement. I gotta go TJ Dillashaw to win this one. I think it might be a bit different, but overall, I just think that Dillashaw might have the style that is like Baral's kryptonite, pretty much. Next fight after that, the co-main, we have Danny Castillo versus Tony Ferguson. Danny Castillo has a 17-6 record, 6 wins by KO TKO, 4 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO TKO and 2 losses by submission. He's 34 years old, training out of Team Alpha Male, similar to like Faber or Baral or Chad Mendes or Joseph Benavidez, among others. He's a good wrestler. His top control is good. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills are actually pretty good. Stand-up's average, but it's effective. He knocked out Charlie Brenman, knocked down Michael Johnson, knocked down Edson Barboza. So, I forgot if he's southpaw, but it's he has some pop in his strikes. But so does Tony Ferguson. He has a 15-3 record, 9 wins by KO TKO, 4 wins by sub, and he's 30 years old on a 2-fight win streak. Stand-up solid. He has a good left hook, especially. His wrestling, both offensive. Well, he doesn't use as much offensive wrestling as I'd like to see, because he doesn't need to use it. But his takedown defense is pretty good. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills are solid. He has a really good front choke series, actually. I have a hard time seeing Danny Castillo, and also Tony Ferguson's got a good chin too. I can't really see Danny Castillo work a grinding match against Tony Ferguson, nor can I see him beat him off on the feet. I think Tony Ferguson, if he wants to defend takedowns and beat up Castillo on the feet, I think he can do that. I don't know if he can necessarily out-wrestle him or anything like that, but like I said, I think Ferguson has the tools to keep the fight standing and beat up Castillo on the feet. Repeated myself there. So going with Tony Ferguson for the win. Next fight after that, Shayna, the Queen of Spades. Baszler fights Pitbull Correia. Okay, Baszler has a 15-8 record, 14 wins by sub, 1 win by decision. She has 3 losses by KO TKO and 3 losses by submission. She's 34 years old. She last fought not in the Ultimate Fighter, but just like a pro bout. It was an Invicta against Alexis Davis back in January 2013. It will be her first fight in the UFC, and she is a veteran. She does have solid wrestling skills, a real suffocating top control. I think she was training under Josh Barnett, and you kind of see that really suffocating top control. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills are solid on the ground. She goes for some pretty weird things, leg locks. I think she was one of the first to ever do a twister. Her stand-up, though, is kind of below average. Like, honestly, she's kind of coming in to the UFC, not, in my opinion, not in her prime, but she's on her decline, to be honest with you. Correia, 8-0, undefeated record, 1 win by TKO, 7 wins by decision. She's 31 years old. She trains out at Pitbull Brothers, and that's why her nickname's Pitbull. Her stand-up solid. She's got a really good left hook. Good at fighting You know, she can get on the inside like she did against Jessamine Duke. I remember seeing her fight against Julie Kedzie again. She was landing that left hook at will. Shayna could win this one by taking the fight to the ground, but like I said, and you gotta look at like the Juliana Pena fight, for example, you know, where it's just like Baszler was getting hit clean in the stand-up, and her stand-up's just not that good. Baszler's still one of the female MMA fighters that quote-unquote like hits like a girl, you know what I mean? It's just that type of stand-up that doesn't look particularly refined. It's particularly sloppy, and their defense in stand-up is almost like non-existent. So yeah, I gotta go with Bethe Pitbull Correia to win this one. I don't know if she'll get a finish, but I think she can beat Baszler up on the feet. Next fight after that, Carlos Diego Ferreira fights Ramsey Nijem. So Ferreira's coming off that win over Colton Smith. He uses a nice judo throw to a rear naked choke. I want to even go to say it's like one hook and no hooks. I forgot. But he has a 10-0 undefeated record, 6 wins by submission, 4 wins by decision, 29 years old. He's got some strong Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills. Stand-up's not too bad. He's something of a brawler, though. And like I said, yeah, his offensive takedown ability is pretty good. Like I said, he hit like a judo type throw on Colton Smith in his last fight. Ramsey Nijem, 9-4 record, 3 wins by KO TKO, 2 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO TKO and 2 losses by submission. 26 years old on a 2-fight win streak. Most recently beating a good prospect in Medeiros in his last fight by TKO, if I'm not mistaken. Trains out of Pit Elevated with the likes of Court McGee, Steven Seiler, and a couple others that I'm forgetting at the moment. He's a good wrestler. His Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills are solid. Stand-up is improving, but his stand-up defense sucks because he really loops his punches and whatnot. A guy like Miles Jerry managed to knock him out cold. With that said, this is an interesting fight for me. Oh, in the sense that I think they're just well-matched opponents. It's hard for me to say. I think Nijem has the advantage in wrestling. He'll go for some pretty different types of takedowns as well. I remember Justin Edwards, he was going for like a couple trip takedowns and whatnot. And of course, you know, he'll go for like the traditional single or double legs as well. But yeah, I think Nijem can probably get the fight to the ground and stay on top, avoid the sweeps and submissions from Ferrera, and get the win. But it's tough to say because in the stand-up, I still feel that Nijem, despite blasting Medeiros, still is kind of a liability in the stand-up. He is a guy that does get hit clean a couple times in his fights. But I'll go with Ramsey Nijem to win that one. Next fight after that, Damon Jackson fights Yancy Medeiros. This one's kind of tough for me to call because I was watching some Damon Jackson fights recently against like Leonard Garcia and forgot the name of the guy. It was a legacy fight. And he looks pretty good. 9-0 undefeated record, 2 wins by KO TKO, 7 wins by submission. So he is a finisher. He's 26 years old, trains out of Octagon MMA with the likes of UFC fighters Matt Hobar and Sean Spencer. He's never been past the second round. It will be his first fight in the UFC, and he is taking the fight on 9 days' notice. He is some of his accolades in wrestling. He's an All-American. Some of the fights I've seen has really good back control, which I like. And so his wrestling's strong. His overall control, especially from dominant positions, is good. And his overall Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills are solid. You know, I saw him hit rear naked chokes in that one fight. And Leonard Garcia, he got an arm triangle. So he's pretty solid. He's fighting Yancy Medeiros. He has a 9-2 record with 1 no contest, 6 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by sub. He's 26 years old. The thing I like about Medeiros is his stand-up. It's good. He uses combinations really well. I remember when he fought Rustam Khabilov, he actually defended some of his takedowns pretty well. Of course, he still got slammed and like dislocated his thumb. So it's not hard for me to say. Just, you know, it really is just predicated on whether Medeiros can defend the takedowns of Jackson. The fact that it is Jackson's first fight in the UFC and he's taking the fight on 9 days' notice doesn't bode well for him in the sense, you know, as far as cardio goes. Of course, octagon jitters, never know who that affects. On a full training camp, I'd probably lean a little more towards Jackson. I liked what I saw from the guy. I think Medeiros is a pretty decent prospect. I mean, he lost his last fight against Jim Miller, and there's no shame in losing to Jim Miller. And before that, he beat Eat Edwards, but he got busted for weed, so it's a no contest. And before that, he lost to Rustam Khabilov. So I mean, the only guys he's lost to so far are like Khabilov and Miller. So it's just really good guys. So I'll go to Yancy Medeiros to win this one. Okay, on to the prelims. So we're on Fox Sports 1. Derek Brunson fights Lorenz Larkin. This one's hard for me to call, actually. I'm liking the progress I see from Derek Brunson. He has an 11-3 record. 4 wins by KO or TKO, 4 wins by sub. He has 2 losses by KO or TKO. But those 2 losses by KO or TKO are to Jacare and Yoel Romero. So it's only to the very tough guys. He's 30 years old, training out of Jackson Winklejohn. He's a strong wrestler with good top control. His stand-up is improving. He actually has a pretty nice head kick. In his second fight in the UFC, he head kicked and rear naked choked his opponent. Forgot his name. And he actually showed some decent stand-up against Yoel Romero as well. Lorenz Larkin, 14-3 record with 1 no contest. He has 8 wins by KO or TKO, 6 wins by decision. 27 years old on a 2-fight losing streak. Most recently got knocked out by Kostas Philippou. Trains out of Millennia MMA with the likes of like Syed Awad. He has some pretty unorthodox stand-up. You know, he'll go for like spinning strikes, jump kicks. I haven't seen him lately. You know, his kicks are good. His takedown defense is actually really solid. And his overall grappling is improving. It's always hard for me to pick against Lorenz Larkin. And the times that I pick him, like against like Brad Tavares, he lost. Oh, that was he lost against Brad Tavares, and then he lost to Kostas Philippou, and I picked him to win again in those fights. There are some problems with Lorenz Larkin. He's a very low output striker. He's a guy that will strike. He's a good counter striker, but he strikes at only like very opportune times. So that's something I hope he can fix. And like I said, Brunson's getting a lot more solid these days, so he might even be able to take Lorenz Larkin down. This one's hard for me to call. I'm kind of leaning towards Lorenz Larkin here. I just don't know, though. You know what I mean? He's let me down before. Brunson has at least shown a little more consistency as of late. He looked pretty good in his loss against Yoel Romero. He's coming off a surgery, though. I think that happened. Like he injured his leg or something in the fight against Romero. I'll go with Larkin to win this one. Not too confident in that pick, though. Larkin just has been looking kind of... He can look great sometimes, and he can look not so great at times. Nice fight with that. Henry Cejudo fights Scott Jorgenson. Jorgenson has a 15-9 record, 2 wins by KO or TKO, 5 wins by sub. He also has 3 losses by submission. He's 31 years old. He's only won 2 of his last 7 fights. Didn't look particularly great in his last fight. That guy gets hit clean a lot now. His wrestling's still good. He can rely on that. His scrambling ability is pretty solid. Stand-up offensively is average. His stand-up defense is bad. That guy gets hit clean a lot now. And his chin, as shown in his last fight, is clearly deteriorating. I mean, he does not take punches like he used to. Cejudo, 6-0, undefeated record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 1 submission win by strikes. He's 27 years old. It'll be his first fight in the UFC. He is an Olympic level wrestler. One of his biggest problems, though, is that he does have trouble making flyweight. When he was fighting for Legacy, if I'm not mistaken, he didn't make weight a couple of times. He was scheduled to have some bouts, and for undisclosed reasons at times, he would just opt out of those bouts. So there's something to be said about Henry Cejudo's dedication to the sport of MMA. It's something that was kind of questioned even when it was first announced that he'd get into MMA. Hopefully being in the UFC is going to be something of an eye-opener. I'll go with Cejudo to win this one on the basis that I think he's a better wrestler than Scott Jorgenson. And Jorgenson's a guy that I feel is kind of deteriorating at this point. I think Cejudo will be able to get takedowns in Jorgenson, land some ground and pound, possibly even outbox the guy, I don't know. So yeah, Henry Cejudo for a win there. Next fight after that, we have heavyweights as Anthony Hamilton fights Ruan Fangs Potts. This one's hard for me to call because I actually watched Anthony Hamilton's fight against Molino Rama, right? And with Hamilton, he has a 12-3 record, 6 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. Has 2 losses by submission. 34 years old. Guy is 6'5". He's a big heavyweight. Trains out of Jackson Winklejohn. He's got a good clinch and good clinch takedowns, but he is like the sloppy, like this way against Molino. Besides the head kick, which is awesome, that fight kind of sucked. It was just like him reaching for the clinch. I mean, it was just like the sloppily reaching, like Frankenstein style reaching for the clinch. Or the monster in Frankenstein reaching for the clinch. Stand up besides the head kick just didn't look that good. Couldn't keep Rama on the ground very well. He kind of looked like a lumbering heavyweight, to be honest with you. The thing is, he's fighting Ruan Potts, has an 8-2 record, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 4 wins by sub. He's going to be 6'2". He is a finisher. His stand-up skills are solid. Saw some video of him of one of his fights in EFC Africa. Didn't get to show anything against Soto Pelele. He just got mounted and ground and pounded and finished. But the video I saw from him, he has good kicks, and actually he trains under something Mark Robinson, I think, in EFC, and I think he trains on like Mark Robinson, and you can see some judo skills in Potts. So that's pretty interesting, because Anthony Hamilton likes the clinch position. I was kind of leaning towards Hamilton because of the whole, like, oh, he's 6'5", and trains out of Jackson Winklejohn. At first, I was going with Anthony Hamilton, and he lost to Alexei Olenek in his last fight pretty easily too. But and Potts lost to Soto Pelele in the last fight, so it's hard to say. I mean, they're heavyweights, you know. They're not good heavyweights either. They're like lower tier heavyweights. I'm kind of leaning towards Potts, though. I liked what I saw from his stand-up. I liked his kicks. I think if it's in the clinch, at least Potts has judo to counter Hamilton's own clinch game as well. So I'll go through Ruan Fangs Potts to win that one. Next fight after that, Anthony Burchak fights Joe One Bad Mofo Soto. Okay, Joe Soto, the first Bellator featherweight champion, if I'm not mistaken. And he might be Bellator's first ever champion, if I'm not mistaken. 15-2 record, 5 wins by KO or TKO, 8 wins by sub. 27 years old on a 6-fight win streak. It'll be his first fight in the UFC. He's a strong wrestler. He's an aggressive guard passer too from Soto. So his last fight against got the guy's name now. Something Ware. His last name is Ware. So it's referred to him. He was aggressively guard passing Ware's guard. He has good ground and pound. His Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills are solid. Stand-up's average. He has a tendency to shell up a lot. And Ware was actually, I mean, he actually, Soto utilizes head movement and he'll block punches relatively well. Did get knocked out with was it a knee from Joe Warren? I remember that still. But yeah, the thing with Soto is he has a tendency to cover up and to stand up a lot. I like his shot though, man. That guy has a really good that guy's a really good shot when he takes down opponents. Anthony Burchak, MFC champion, if I'm not mistaken. Saw his last fight against Tito Jones. 11-1 record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 6 wins by sub. He's 28 years old on a 5-fight win streak. It's going to be his first fight in the UFC. He's got a good clinch. Against Tito Jones, he was kneeing from the clinch really well. He has a Greco-Roman and freestyle background. So his wrestling's good. I liked his wrestling. The difference with him and Soto, they're pretty similar in a lot of aspects, but I felt that Burchak was a lot more aggressive, and he's the type to go forward and put a lot more pressure on his opponents. His ground and pound was pretty solid as well. His Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills pretty good as well. Tough one to call because they're very similar. Both their first fights in the UFC. Soto has a little more experience. Burchak's not that bad though himself. I'm thinking the pressure game of Burchak is gonna win him out. Like I said, I didn't like seeing that Soto covers up so much and stand up. I will say that Soto, in my opinion, might be the stronger wrestler. Tough to say if that's true or not. But it's gonna be really interesting because both these guys are pretty good wrestlers. I'm going with just more the pressure and aggressiveness of Burchak to win this one. So yeah, Anthony Burchak for the win there. And on to the prelims, which will be on Fight Pass. Cain Carrizosa fights Chris Wade. So I actually watched Cain Carrizosa's fight against, I think it's like Juan Espada or something like that. It was in Bellator, right? So he has a 6-0 undefeated record. Cain does 2 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. It's his first fight in the UFC. And I know in his most previous fight, he had a clean KO in like 30 seconds. I didn't get to watch the fight though. But he has good Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills. He's good off his back. Really nice triangle. He kind of will like pull guard. His takedown defense isn't like that great against the guy he fought too. Stand-up's decent. He'll go forward, but he kind of like throws punches and goes forward in order to initiate the clinch. Chris Wade, I believe he's a ROC Ring of Combat champion. He beat Frankie Perez in the last fight, and I saw the fight that he won the title from. I forgot the guy's name. And I remember his loss against Ozzy Dugulubgov in World Series of Fighting. Chris Wade has a 7-1 record, 2 wins by submission, 5 wins by decision. It's on a 2-fight win streak. It'll be his first fight in the UFC. Wade is a good wrestler. His top control is pretty solid. Ground and pound's pretty decent. Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills aren't bad. Stand-up's just kind of average. Not great, not that bad. I think Wade will, quite honestly, be able to get the takedowns in Carrizosa. And any submission attempts from Carrizosa's back, I think Wade could potentially avoid. So I think just I'm going with Chris Wade just to use the superior wrestling to win this one. Okay, to recap the main card, I have TJ Dillashaw beating Renan Baral, Tony Ferguson beating Danny Castillo, Bethe Pitbull Correia over Shayna, the Queen of Spades Baszler, Ramsey Njem over Carlos Diego Ferreira, and Yancy Medeiros beating Damon Jackson. On the prelims, I have Lorenz Larkin over Derek Brunson, Henry Cejudo over Scott Jorgenson, Ron Potts beating Anthony Hamilton, and Anthony Burchak over Joe Soto. And on the Fight Pass prelim, I have Chris Wade over Cain Carrizosa. So that's it for my predictions for UFC 177, Dillashaw versus Baral 2. If you have any comments, just leave them below. That's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.